Hello, everybody, and happy Sunday. I'm still not sure if I'm going to upload this other video I did. It was a little more distracted than usual, but basically, I did a thing. So I uploaded a video to YouTube about Google tools, and before I get too ahead of myself, we're just going to do some mundane, like harvesting things, because we're really kind of drawing into like the crux of what I'm trying to accomplish with Google, like as far as like education, making it publicly available, making it concise to where it's usable, trying to remove as much friction as possible, and all of these like things that kind of go into what I'm thinking for trying to make the best education. Well, not even the best. Like it doesn't have to be a competition, but an effective education tool that's free and available to use by everybody. So um, yeah. So I uploaded a video to YouTube, and it's very scattered. I mean, it is an hour, and so it's like I don't know. It's so there's friction. There's friction in it, but basically, I show how to start or how to use a Google profile. Kind of like there's still some needs for the end user, you, the viewer, or whatever. Whoever is trying to use these tools, they need to be able to create a Google profile or create a Google account. See, most people think that it's just an email account, a Gmail, until they become more familiar with Google tools. It's actually a profile that allows you to use all of their tools more effectively. Now, you can still use Google tools without a profile, and it'll give you a limited experience, like they call it, because they don't really know much about you. They don't know your search history or your search preferences or your location, so they don't know what's relevant to you, and they have a lot of information. So when you use their tools, like, and granted, you can do things like narrow it down, like say Google Maps, for instance. Almost everybody's at least seen Google Maps or used Google Maps at some point in their life. Even if you're an Apple user, like I want to say, actually that'd be interesting. And see, I need to get an iPhone. I have an iPad Mini that I'm trying to get back into, and like we'll see. Yeah, but like just to kind of see the perspective from someone from another universe, the Apple universe. And that's kind of a good way to think about universes too, because I've heard people talk about the Marvel universe versus the oh, it's not Capcom, it's Marvel, DC. Sorry, jeez, and I like comics. I didn't read a lot as a kid. I like the superheroes that came from comics and all the stuff that's been produced with that. So I don't know, but I forget things a lot because I have a lot of information in my head. Not really. I know a lot of ways to get information, and so at any given point, I can dynamically get information for something. Be useful with that, and then at the drop of a hat, be able to pivot and get useful information for something else. So that's why I love IT. It's so it's so I don't know. It's so clear cut and understandable how to do it and do it well. But then, again, I don't know. I kind of ranted in the Google a bit, the Google video, which I still don't even know what to call it because it is like it's an hour long video of this is what you need to know, kind of for coding, but really these things are they're useful for everybody. Like Google tools, at least to learn things. And see, that's the thing. Like I was confused when I went to learn computer science at a university. I learned Linux, and I was like, well, wait a minute. Where's the Windows programming? Where's the Apple programming? And I was all confused because I was thinking about like the two main things that I knew about like the tech industry of like where I wanted to work. Like, oh, I want to go to work for or Microsoft because there's even like a third camp. But I don't know. It's like the more you find out about the tech world, because, or let's start from the beginning. So you need a job. Well, I like to use technology. It was basically the sum of like my interest in computer science. As I grew up playing video games, I enjoyed video games. I knew how to use a computer. I enjoyed playing around with the computer, even though it was very basic and mundane things I was doing, like creating a Word document, doing spell checker, like doing a word count. Like I was just like clicking different buttons and options, like just playing around with it, and which is really dangerous to do sometimes. But I mean, it depends on the system, the program, the computer. There's so many different factors of whether that's, a good idea or not. But it is a good idea to take a look around. And as long as you're doing things that don't have a serious consequence, and I guess that's where like a lot of people get analysis paralysis that way when using tech is they don't know what's going to break a computer, or they don't know what's bad because, maybe what they've been doing they found out wasn't safe or good, and now they're second guessing everything they do. It's just understanding the human psychology or the human understanding of interacting with tech, using tech, and then being comfortable with it, all of these things. So that Google video, it's good. It's an hour, so it's an investment. But then a lot of these are kind of, and that's why So I really wanted to make sure that I got a coherent thought out about kind of what it is. So. And it is. And I added the links. I have a publicly visible Jamboard. I'm not looking at it as the video's uploading, but it would be interesting to see, like, because anytime a link goes up on YouTube, you see all the bots, like, combing the web for stuff, seeing if they can do anything with it, like, download any information. Like, a lot of things have been automated, including things that would be more cybercrime or sketchy, and a lot of it isn't until it is. Like, recon. Like, I don't know. Hold on. Yeah, I'll admit, like, listening to myself drinking I just saw a comment about that. I get it. Like, it is. Although, and also doing half hour versus hours. Like, when I'm trying to do, like, a coherent thought, maybe that's how I should classify these things. Like, if it's a half hour video, it's more of a coherent, clear, concise thought or group of thoughts. Whereas if it's, see, it's like, training people on how to even use my channel, my YouTube channel. Like, you've got the musings, which, okay, yeah, that's neat. There's a bunch of Minecraft stuff in there. And then there's some, like, really interesting stuff, like, embedded in there between some really mundane stuff. Like, because we talk about religion, politics, and all these things that, like, could, like, make or break the universe, or no, the world. Just kidding. It doesn't get that intense. But depending on who's viewing it, that is a potential problem. So, it's, I don't know. And even just the different universes of, I like saying universes in the sense that different situations or different existences or different environments, really, kind of like the whole Spider-Man thing. Like, there's the new Spider-Man movie that came out. I won't talk much about that because I don't want to do spoilers, but like the old one, like the first one where Miles Morales, we meet Miles Morales, and it's like the Spider-Verse, and he finds that there's other characters from other universes that are equally bitten by spiders. Oh, hold on. Sorry, at the same time, because of the tonsil surgery, I do have like kind of. Anyways, I gotta drink water a little bit. But anyways, the Spider-Verse, it has it it just has the idea that there's different versions of Spider-Man. And so that's a fun concept in itself. But then when you think about it in the tech world, there's version control. There's different versions of your code. Now, it's not as extravagant, or there's not as much razzle dazzle as having like a Spider Pig or a Spider-Man from this universe, or the the black and white noir Spider-Man. No, it's you have this code that you wrote on this date, and then you have this code that you wrote on this date, but this code broke it, and so now we need to go back to the code that you wrote on the other date. Granted, you need to give up the changes that you just did, but unfortunately, that's the basic level of version control, or the basic idea of version control. And that's something that you can do in Google Docs that makes it easy for the common person, and not even like the common person, or even like the non-tech person, however you want to think about that. The person that's not trying to learn Google to get into a tech career, the person that's trying to learn Google just to be able to use some tools to make their life easier. Um, yeah. And a lot of things use these tools too, mind you. Like, I mean, I was trying to be on a team developing an app back in college, basically making the new Facebook, or trying to, because even thinking about that, like, we saw the success of Facebook and we're learning technology, so it makes sense that we would try to be the next Facebook or something. but not, and like, and then you'd say stuff like, oh, but I would do it differently, because then there's that idea that Zuckerberg ripped off his friends or people or whatever, and then like there's that whole ordeal. Ooh, sorry, we also got to be careful with our axes. The cool thing about having all of these to chop down is you get a ton of them, and we filled up our inventory really quickly, but as you can see, we went from a very healthy axe to like halfway broken. Anyways, so Google tools, they're useful for everyone, and you can still use them and still use your Apple tools and your Microsoft. And that's something that I'm struggling with, playing a Microsoft game, because I'm pretty sure Microsoft owns Minecraft now. And Microsoft also owns Xbox, I want to say. So I don't know, but and I do have some Microsoft accounts, and I actually need to do some of that, like some account management stuff with Microsoft, and that's, potential security flaw. I got a message that one of my kids' Microsoft accounts that I was just making as a test got hacked into when I was on the other side of the world. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so, like, I don't know, it got shut down, but like, it just goes to show that were they trying to get into my stuff? Maybe. My own government might be doing it as like an exercise, or, a foreign government might be doing it as an exercise. Or a foreign government might be doing it because I just said the word cybersecurity in something. Like, that's as basic as it could be, honestly. And then once they discover that, oh, there's maybe potentially something, or maybe there's potentially some danger to it, then they hopefully weigh in those factors. I don't know. Or they don't. And that's the thing, is like you can never be too sure about the way people are going to act. I mean, you can never truly predict human behavior because you can't possibly calculate all of the different side factors and the different pieces that go into anything, really. And like, that's why watching some deGrasse Tyson, like, I always butcher that name, but like watching Neil, like some of Neil's stuff. I remember seeing this episode of that show that he does. It's like nah, it's not Star Talk. Star Talk's like the podcast thing that he does with some other. Anyways, so this Neil show, he was talking about multiple dimensions or multiple possibilities of existence, and there's a couple of theories. The one that was really interesting to me that I saw there was like if there's a different reality for every single choice, every single point in that could be different. So if I chose to cut this pumpkin, then that pumpkin, then I chose to go jump over here, is different from if I chose to cut this pumpkin and that pumpkin, and then I chose to go jump over here. Like two different realities so parallel are now diverging in potentially exponentially different paths. Like, so this is the one where I showed both jumps, but say we're in the world where I only showed the left jump, and that's just something that I did, just one change in one video game, in one decision for one person at one location on the earth, one planet. I don't know. There's so many ways that you can classify just about everything. And then when you realize, like, okay, so now we can measure and like, not for the aim of control. That's like those, you hear those words and then you start like worrying, like, okay, no, this is a nefarious or this is a malicious thing. No, it's just it's a way to think about existence. So, and it was an interesting theory, and that's all it was. It's a theory. I don't think we can really prove it. And that's what makes the Spider-Man movies, those cartoon ones that came out recently, like the Spider-Verse and the one that just did, and then, because there's even like different subgroups of Spider-Man movies. And then within that, like even in the real, like the live action ones or the people, like there's different subgroups, like different actors even. So there you have like different universes of Spider people, because then there's also Spider Woman, Spider Girl, and yeah, that's why comics are so neat. And it would be interesting. Ooh, there you go. We should start a trend with like web comics. In fact, that's probably already a thing. Even as I say that, to save paper, save all that, but also like, in fact, I want to say that exists. I don't know. I'm not aware of that universe. See, that could be a whole different niche or like group of people that used to go to comic book stores. You think about like the Big Bang Theory. That's just an easy thing to point to that a lot of people are at least aware of. And if you aren't aware of it, it's a TV show. I want to say it was on like TBS or something, but it's not important. It was a TV show that was about a bunch of really nerdy type people, and just kind of like the funny jokes that go about the people that are more nerdy and how they interact with common society. Because it's an unfortunate side effect of the people that are able to focus and the people that aren't, or the people that are able to learn with the current learning tools and the people that aren't. Really, it's not even like a measure of whether they're smarter or dumber. It's whether they, at the time in their universe, were able to learn. And if they did, and then if they didn't learn, a lot of it is just being drugged behind, like or like dragged behind. It's kind of a brutal image because this actually did happen in American history. Like people used to drag people behind cars. Yeah, gruesome. I know. It's just, and we hear about this in school, but then it's like, but did you really hear it though, or were you really listening or paying attention? Because then it's like, you say it in those words, like, oh well, I didn't think about it that way. Like, oh gosh, it's actually like a person. Like a lot of times it's like, well, what happens if it happened to you? And that's a common recurring theme in human behavior and psychology, that if they want to force compassion or empathy for the goal of, okay, get off my back. Like, why are you acting like this to me? How would you like it? Like, and then they try to like relate it to you, and which is important. And the people that kind of more focus on these ideas, they tend to do it. Like I do this all the time. Like whenever I say something to someone, I think about, okay, well, like, how would this sound coming to me? And that's why I kind of pause a lot when I talk to people, because I deal with a lot of different universes. Into the IT verse could really be a thing, because it is like you are the junction or the connection point that connects people of varying levels of tech comfort. Sorry, how would you say that? Like tech comfort and tech familiarity is really what it sums up to, and that changes, and unfortunately is like directly relational. It's potentially affected by age, but it isn't exclusively affected by that, and it isn't guaranteed to be affected by that, I guess is the easiest way to say that. So while it is a potential factor, it definitely isn't. And all of that's going on before I say, hi, nice to meet you, or, oh, my day's fine, how's yours? And I'm already thinking like, okay, and even if they even say something like, oh, hey, how's it going? I have this. Then, okay, you have an issue with this. And already at the back of my mind, I'm going through like, imagine it's someone thumbing through the pages of all these different user manuals that they have in a filing cabinet. Like if we were going to do like animations, like that's basically tech in a nutshell. I say that a lot, but that's the summary, the synopsis of working in tech. So, all right. So anyways, go on. We have a problem, or we have an idea. So, all right, right there, we're doing like a big split, a divergent. Like, okay, is this an issue of something that so I know where to look. Like, is this something in our company, or is this something in our family? Like when I'm doing tech support with like the family, it's like, yeah. Not saying I have like a whole ticket system or anything professional, like, ooh, yeah, we need to go fix the axe. I almost broke that. But like, oh, I guess we're hoofing it. Um, And that's how I problem solve with anything. Like if I see something on the Twitters is where I generally see problems that I'm not going to solve them. I'm going to try to at least like help fix it. And I trust that other people are going to take what I say and do and try to fit that into their understanding, whether they agree or disagree, and then go from there. And then if they find some value in it, like maybe pick apart what you like about it and then what you don't. And again, these are all things that like we do in school, but if you're not able to listen, like if you're not able to understand it the way it's being presented, that's a better way to say it, because that's really what I'm trying to say is like, because it's not that you're dumb. It's never that you're dumb. Like, and that's the biggest thing that like, well, kind of pisses me off when I was growing up was like, if the learning, the special needs or the learning disabilities, like any of these words, they're not really accurate because it's a wide range of like, and so in specifically Buena Vista, we had, a couple of kids with like severe disabilities, like in wheelchairs, like stuff like that. Then we had other kids that were just maybe not understanding it. And then we had to lump them all together because we had limited resources. And that's another thing that my family understands. I have I want to say at least two or three people, that I can think of right off the bat. Anyways, the point is that work in public education for special needs, because that's introducing a whole new problem set for the same amount of finite resources And how do you problem solve that? And then how do you do it in a non-offensive way? Because that's the problem with emotions and psychology is a problem. Like, not saying that like, oh, we need to get rid of it, like kill emotions and whatnot. No, we need to understand that as people, even just like without any disabilities, and we all have our weaknesses and our strengths, but like I'm talking like if you have all your legs, your arms, your fingers, like if you didn't get like damaged, your brain wasn't damaged, or you're not confined to a wheelchair, or any of these, like this huge range of new sets of problems. And that's why it's so hard to address these things. And again, why, like, in my opinion, the most noble of computer sciences, of tech careers, anything, is ability tech, or whatever it's being called now. That is like a better, a more useful name. But because I think about it like disability, which isn't really quite right, but that's how we used to classify this kind of things in the day. Or we have Special Olympics, where it isn't competition between people with no really major, hindrances, but it's like you want to say, and you got to stay away from like saying normal people or not, because we're all still people. It's not like they came down in alien pods and now they have a wheelchair. It's not. And of course, when you say things like that, it's like blatantly obvious. It's like, oh yeah, well, of course not that. But then it's like it's a slippery slope. Just like we used to say, all right, and even this is like a little kind of like PTSD, very on a light scale, mind you, not like, but we used to say things like retarded, and South Park does a wonderful job of approaching issues like these and taboo words and stuff and trying to make sense of it. That's why I love South Park, and they do it in a crude way, and at the times like a lot more crude humor was more common and allowed, not just allowed. And then you get into like the whole freedom, and then I don't know, back and forth and information lost. I was starting to talk about that with like George Carlin and Monty Python, like, and typically those are like in stoner circles. Like if you were ever a stoner, and see right there, you're putting a label on someone just because they either tried or regularly use or used to use or might use in the future marijuana, cannabis, or any of those groups. And so all of that just to say, and it's annoying because you almost have to like explain all of that in there, and people don't have the time. They don't want to listen to that. But that's where a common universe that a lot of people have at least dipped into exists, where humor was used to try to understand the human condition and the human understanding. So, yeah. And not just to say, oh yeah, go smoke a bunch and go watch some Cheech and Chong, but right there, you kind of get a glimpse into the world of what it's like to be, Hispanic and in America, and why there's a tendency like more Hispanic people tend to be smoking some marijuana. Well, maybe it's because their life isn't going that great. Maybe they're coming to the land of enchantment and it's not enchantment at all. And now they're like hiding and trying to like not be illegal and being persecuted. And especially if they're trying to come from a place that was already pretty messed up. And especially if it's a place that we kind of messed up as a country. I mean, think about it. Like Fidel Castro, we were doing all sorts of stuff with Cuba. Like, the Cuban Missile Crisis, they were going to store nuclear weapons for the Soviet, not even for the Soviet Union, for whatever Russia was calling itself at the time. Like, because that's what it is now. And like, again, different universes, different times, the problems change. So now the problem is like, we're interacting with Russia and Ukraine and all that. Oh yeah, now it's like, oh, it's creepy. It's like all of them like, wait, what are you saying? What are you saying about Russia? And, it wouldn't be that creepy if I didn't already know that I'm working on coding a Discord bot, and you can key off of what's being said in the Discord channel. So everything you're saying that is being recorded and analyzed. And so then the potential with that is if you said Russia or Ukraine, then all of the villages could come over. Or if you say any of these words that's in a group of buzzwords, you can program a robot or a game or a program to key in on that. Anyways, pretty sure that's not happening here, but it's a possibility. So, and I just can acknowledge that and move on and just know that. And then I try to act in ways that, like, okay, say that was the case. Am I in trouble? Like, did I ever admit to a crime? Well, no, because first off, here's the scalable way to do that. Don't commit crimes in the first place. And then you think of like that movie Liar Liar, where Jim Carrey, he starts yelling on the phone, stop breaking the law, a-hole, like, because he's trying to get some legal advice, and it was after his assistant. It was a phone call coming in, and this lawyer's assistant, Jim Carrey's assistant, says, "Hey, so and so is calling. They need some legal advice." And then he comes over. It's like a repeat customer, and he comes over. He grabs the phone. He's like, "Quit breaking the law, a-hole!" Like, and that was his advice as his lawyer, which was horrible for his career, potentially career ending. But it's like, okay, you've been trying to solve these problems because that's your job, and you're trying to solve it in the ways that work with the law, your government's laws, and then you're trying to solve it within the ways that work in society. And so we're already right there. Okay, now you're kind of falling away from lawyers because everybody knows lawyers are evil and they charge too much and, blah, 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 blah. So right there, you're already trying to overcome some adversity from a societal norm of lawyers being evil. Well, okay, so to become a lawyer, you need to pay for education, not just a base education. So now we're talking 4-year degrees as a stepping stone. You're still not quite done. Now you need to study for the bar. Now you need to go to law school. And, and depending on what that entails, you need to invest a whole nother. And so that's the thing. So that's why lawyers get paid so much, is because they have so many expenses. Now, if you remove the expense of education, boom, then lawyers can become cheap. Like, and they should be. And we've got a lot of public defenders, and the general skills for all lawyers, like all of those standards are being raised because we have such great communication technology and education tools. Oh, and it builds upon itself. And so, and it can be a little much if you're not used to tech. Like if you just start, and that's why you got to be careful, just like kind of come off as crazy. Like, no, if you go too fast and if the people aren't ready to hear it, then it could seem like friction. It could seem unpleasant, forced even, nefarious or evil. Like, yeah. So, and how's that go back to the snake and the apple? Talking Christianity. Sorry, it's still so taboo, but like, so okay, the snake gave Eve an apple, Eve ate it, and then was able to understand. Like that sounds kind of similar to if someone's not ready to hear if someone's not ready to pick up this knowledge I'm dropping down, yo, like the 90s used to say it. Sorry. Then it could seem as evil or at least untrustworthy. So there's the other thing is like, it doesn't have to be outright evil, like, oh no, burn it with fire, like, I don't trust it, I can't handle it. Because that's what, like, growing up, you'd read the Sunday comics in the newspaper. And that's right, and it was just basically like a bunch of memes. We had our memes in our Sunday paper, just like we had our educational and our entertaining programs on the TV, on network programming, which, oh man, it's so, oh, it's exciting to see. It's scary. It's annoying because of all the time and effort that I spent in my lifetime trying to understand tech, like back in the day, is now shortened to like a 20-minute video, and that's fine. I love it. Oh, and there's that alarm. So we're gonna cut this one. But yeah, just know I did the Google video was basically the point of this one. And that within it has a Jamboard, a road map, and everything you need to get into a tech career. And then I'm going to continue to make these videos to just kind of do like everything you need to live a good life. Like, and definitely not trying to become a false idol or replace a Bible or anything. Because there were, actually, yeah, let's do it episode 2. All right. See you in there. See you over there. Ta-ta.